How we doing, Wisconsin fans, Brewer fans, Badger fans, Packer fans, all of them wrapped up into one? How are we doing on this Tuesday? Brewers got a big win last night, so if you were watching that game, if you're a big fan of the Brew Crew, you are having a good Tuesday and hopefully carry over here through the rest of this week with this Brewer team. But last night, Brewers 12-0 winners. We're going to be covering that, and we're also going to be talking a little bit more Badgers and just kind of recapping that game a little bit more and kind of dissecting what we're seeing right now coming out of Madison from this Badger team. But with that, we're going to jump right into it. This is Wisconsin Sports on the Go with Trade, and we are all about the Brewers. And the Brewers last night, 12-0 winners over the Marlins. A big offensive showing for this Brewers team. Started out right off the bat with a Mark Canha leadoff home run for the Brewers, batted leadoff for this Brewers team. 2-for-6 effort from Mark Canha. 2 hits, 1 RBI, 2 runs on the game for Canha. Stays hot in that leadoff spot. Great to see from Mark Canha. Then William Contreras backed that up with a 2-for-3 effort there. 2 walks on the game for him. Santana 1-for-2, 2 walks also for him. So the top of the order got it done for this Brewers team. Adames 3-for-4. Adames finally, hopefully, a little bit of a spark from Adames last night. It looked like he was on a lot of balls, hitting a lot of line drives. And that's what we've been waiting for out of Adames, is get that uppercut swing out of there, the launch angle, and just hit liners. And last night it looked like he had a couple balls where it was line drives, just how you want to see it there. Donaldson, we're going to get to that whole mess. Donaldson coming up to the Brew Crew, but he had a 1-for-4 night. He had a 1 hit in this ball game, a single that brought in a run. But we're going to talk a little bit more about Josh Donaldson here in a little bit and talk about that move. Monasterio, 2-for-4 night for him and an RBI. Tyrone Taylor, 3-for-5 on this ball game, 2 RBIs. Frelick went 2-for-5 for this Brewers team, and Weimer had a double there in the 8th inning that scored a run for this Brewers team. Brandon Woodruff, dominant performance. 9 innings, shutout baseball. 6 hits given up, 7 strikeouts, only 1 walk. All 6 hits were singles. Dominant outing from Brandon Woodruff. Low pitch count throughout it all. If it wasn't a shutout early on in the season, I think Greg Counsell would have pulled him out. But in this game, later in the season, the bullpen's been worked. If you can keep Brandon Woodruff out there for the complete game, that's what you're going to go with. And this Brewers team definitely went with that in this one. And Brandon Woodruff delivered a masterpiece out there. 9 innings, 6 hits, 7 Ks. Dominant performance. Got his ERA down to 1.93. So some good-looking work there out of Brandon Woodruff to back up what should have been a no-hitter from the night before. Corbin Burns was probably sitting on the bench like, what in the heck? Brandon Woodruff gets 12 runs tonight. You guys couldn't muster me 1 run yesterday. I would have went the distance for you and got a no-hitter, but yet here we are. Well, with that, we'll jump into the Marlins here and look how they did in this one. Arias, 1-for-3. It's hard to keep Arias down, a 349 hitter. He was going to get a hit at some point in this ball game. And he's not a power hitter. So luckily for that, he's not a power hitter. And he had the 1 hit on the ball game. Berger had a hit. Birdie had 1 hit there in a pinch hit roll. Chisholm had 1 hit for him. Hampson had 1. And Wendell had a hit for him in this one. Luzardo, 5 innings pitched, 10 hits, 6 earned runs, 4 walks, and 5 strikeouts. 1 home run given up there to Mark Canha. Castellano, he came in. They kind of led him to the dogs there. 4 earned runs, 5 runs on the game there. 5 hits in total, 2 strikeouts, 2 walks, 2 innings pitched. And then Stallings finished it out, 1 earned run, 2 hits, 1 inning pitched for Stallings. So a dominant performance by this Brewers offense, 17 hits to 6 for the Marlins. Can this go on? Can the Brewers carry the offense game to game? Can it be more than a couple games here and then our offense completely shuts down? Can we put together a 3 to 4 to 5 game stretch where the offense is firing on all cylinders and we can score runs on whoever, whenever? Because when it comes to playoff baseball, that is exactly where you want to be. Putting up runs against anybody, anywhere, at any time. Doesn't matter who's in the lineup, we got to be hitting, and that's where the Brewers were tonight. Not as dominant of a pitcher as what Garrett Cole was the day before, but you still have to be able to, in a game like that, you got to be able to put up runs against these dominant pitchers in the league. You're going to face that with the Braves. You're going to get that with the Dodgers. You're going to face that even with some of these lower-end wild card teams. Justin Steele from the Cubs. You get them in a wild card series. you're going to have to face some ace pitchers, and you're going to have to be able to somehow muster up runs. And can this Brewers team do that? We can beat up on the little guys. We can beat up on the struggling pitchers. Everybody can. Can we hit the Spencer Striders? Can we push across the run? If Burns and Strider are in a duel on the mound, can we get Burns that 1 to 2 runs against Strider that can take him the distance in that ball game? That's what's going to define this Brewers season down the stretch here and leading into postseason play and potentially further on into this postseason. I don't want to push the button here. The Brewers are still iffy for me, but as a Brewer fan, I hope for nothing but a World Series to end the season here. I don't know if it's possible, but it's what we are hoping for. But with that, I'm going to jump down into the preview for tonight's game here. 6:40 start for this one. Peralta will get the ball for the Brewers, and they do not know who's going to get the ball for the Marlins quite yet. To be decided right now. 11-8 for Peralta on the season, a 3.89 ERA. Looking at the Marlins against Peralta, Arias is hitting .333 against him in 3 at-bats. Birdie's got a .667 average in 3 at-bats. De La Cruz, 2 at-bats. He's got a .500 average. Gurriel in a .667 average, 1 home run against him in 3 at-bats. And Stallings, he has 8 at-bats against him in his career in a .375 average. So this Marlins team has faced Peralta before, and they've seen what Peralta has. Peralta's been a hot pitcher for the Brewers there as of late. So hopefully see Peralta with his dominant stuff to back up Woodruff, and the Brewers can take this game too tonight here against the Marlins. Not sure who will be starting for the Marlins yet. That'll probably determine what Craig Counsell's lineup will look like in this one. Hopefully to see Yelich kind of on the mend here. He's been ailing with that back ailment here for a while. Hopefully see him on the mend here and get back into the lineup. Maybe that's got something to do with his struggle at the plate too. Talked about it yesterday. There's multiple ways you can look at it. I mean, it might be one of those things where I'm going to sit out for a little bit. My back's kind of hurting, but I'm going to sit out because I've been struggling. I need to get my mind right. Maybe it's my back's been hurting. I haven't told anybody. My bat's been struggling because of it. And now I'm finally going to bring it up and say something. And now it's past the point where we can just sit out for a day and get back into action. Now we have to sit out for a little bit. I like the mentality, but right now the Brewers could use Christian Yelich back at some point in what he had been throughout the season here. Well, not early on, but in that middle half where him and Contreras were the real driving force for this offense, and he was getting on there at the top of the order. Well, right now, the Brewers are filling in great at the top of the order. Sal Frelick has had a bunch of hits at the top of the order. He proved last night that he can hit left-handed pitchers no matter what Craig Counsell wanted to do, and he was playing matchup out there in his outfield. Sal Frelick can hit him, and that was good to see Sal Frelick getting up there in the leadoff spot, and also Mark Canha. Mark Canha's been hot for the Brewers, and it was great to see Mark Canha flourishing in that leadoff spot along with Frelick, having options in there in that leadoff spot. Maybe a guy like Andrew Monasterio could be a guy to lead off too for this Brewers team. He is a contact hitter first, and he gets on for the rest of the guys. So maybe Monasterio could be a guy to be moved up into that top of that order at some point for this Brewers team. But with that, I want to look at something that didn't really make sense to me at all, and that was the move the Brewers made to yesterday. Josh Donaldson was called up from AAA Nashville, and Owen Miller was sent down to AAA. Now, we talked about this. We talked about what we thought was going on with Owen Miller and why Owen Miller wasn't getting playing time. I talked about that yesterday, and all of a sudden they made this move. And it was, what the heck move was this? You look at a guy like Donaldson, and I get it. If you're looking for a veteran presence, you're looking for leadership, a guy who's been there, done that, keyword former MVP. I mean, former, in quotations there. That is Josh Donaldson. He was that guy. Back in the day, if you told me 2017, around that time, you were getting me, 2015, you were getting me Josh Donaldson on this Brewers team, I would have been ecstatic. That would have been crazy. That would have been the guy, the third baseman that we've been waiting for the Brewers. It's not that guy. This is 2023 Josh Donaldson, getting a little bit older Josh Donaldson, not as dominant of a hitter, not scary at all when he steps into the plate. Still hot-headed, but not the dominant force that can drive an offense. You look at him on the season there with the Yankees, 142 hitter, 10 home runs, 15 RBIs. Power threat. He's a power threat. If he's going to get a hit, it's going to be a home run. You look at his hits with the Yankees; most of them were home runs. He had more home. Yeah, he had mainly home runs for this Yankees team. Okay, we're looking for a power hitter. Josh Donaldson's going to give me home runs, 10 of them. Owen Miller on the season for the Brewers. Remember, he played for the Brewers all the way up until I think it was about July before they sent him down to the minors. 261 average, 5 home runs, 27 RBIs. Compare the two guys. Look at this Brewers team. What do they need? What do the Brewers need? Now, hypothetically speaking, and I post this out there, and people were giving me comments back, and I thoroughly enjoy getting the feedback for what I'm thinking, what other people are thinking. And I had some comments, and I'm just going to run through them real quick here. This comes from a guy, one of my main contributors to my page, and he came back and he said, although it didn't really work out for what the general idea probably was, it seemed like Rowdy, Contreras, Adames, and Yelich, the power guys, were supposed to be the driving force. And Miller was supposed to be the guy to spraying the ball all over the field and getting on for them guys. That's like your Miller, Terang, Frelick, and Monasterio. Donaldson is more of a power in theory minus the timely hitting. Again, he agrees. Doesn't like the move at all. This is more of a front office move for playoff experience. You don't need that when you're outmatched by the Braves and the Dodgers. You need young and dumb, too stupid to realize you're substantial underdogs in what you need. I agree with that. I 110% agree with that. That is an awesome comment. Just reading through that one there, I agree. Miller was a guy who's your contact guy. You had your power guys. Contreras, Yelich was supposed to be in there. Adames, Tellez, those were supposed to be your big boppers. Now you added guys like Mark Canha. You added a guy like Carlos Santana. Those are your big guys. Those are your guys who are going to hit for power. Now you look at guys who are going to spray the ball around. Contact guys. Owen Miller, Sal Frelick, Monasterio, like he said, Terang. Those aren't your power guys. Those are your guys to get on there. And that's what Owen Miller was for this Brewers team. And he hasn't been given the chance to be that guy ever since they sent him down to AAA the first time. They brought him back up, won at bat against the Phillies, bases loaded, put the ball in play, things happen, brought in 3 runs. It was an error, things happen though. And that's what you wanted out of Owen Miller. You didn't ask for him to be that power guy. You wanted the contact guy. What are the Brewers missing on this team? Guys who can hit, guys who can spray it all around. We don't need the constant power threat. We're not going to get that. Yelich is not our power guy. Adames is too streaky. Contreras, he's a line drive hitter. He's going to hit his. He's going to get his home runs, but he's a line drive hitter. He's a double machine. Rowdy doesn't see the field, so not going to really count on Rowdy. Carlos Santana, he's a power threat, but he's more of a line drive hitter. So this team isn't built for power. You look at their stats, power-wise, just pull them up real quick here. Check out the Brewers team stats right now. Ooh, right here. 146 home runs on the season. They're not a power team. 145. They're not a power team. They're a contact-first team. We need to play small ball. The Brewers don't play small ball enough. I agree with that. I've seen a lot of people talking, and they say the Brewers do not play enough small ball. I 110% agree with that. In the 10th inning, 11th inning, why is the first thing you don't do, unless if William Contreras is coming up to the plate and he's hot, or Mark Canha, guys who have been hitting the ball all year. If the bottom of the order is coming up, Terang, Joey Wiemer, any of them kind of guys, Tyrone Taylor, lay a bunt down. Even Sal Frelick. You get that bunt down the third base line, let your athletes run. They will beat it out. You put Sal Frelick up there, he gets a bunt down that third base line. The third baseman doesn't make a good play on it. He beats it out for a single. Now you have first and third with nobody out. I don't understand the lack of small ball played by this Brewers team, and that's what they've been lacking. This isn't a power team. We play like we're a power team. We play like we're trying to play like the Braves. We're not the Braves. We're not a power team. The only way you can compete with the Braves put up numbers, but they put up numbers with their power. That's what they do. They're power hitters. Ronald Acuna and Matt Olson, Austin Riley, the big boppers they have down there. Those guys all can hit home runs consistently. The Brewers can't. They can't hit home runs consistently. They need to play small ball. They need to spray the ball around. Owen Miller was that guy for this team. Adding a guy like Josh Donaldson to this team, he's going to bring a home run every 30 at-bats, that's not going to help this Brewers team. That's not what the Brewers need right now. We need guys who are going to get on base. We need guys who we can put in front of Contreras, in front of guys like Santana and Mark Canha, who will get on base. So when those guys come up, the way that those guys have been hitting the ball, contact, putting the ball into gaps, you can get out and run. And that was Owen Miller. That's what he did for you early in the season. He wasn't a power threat. Like I said, you look at his stats there. 261, 5 home runs. Donaldson had 5 more home runs than he did. 15 RBIs for Donaldson, 27 RBIs for Owen Miller. A shortened season for Donaldson. Injury. Okay, injury plagued him there. But in his at-bats that he did have, a very poor hitting performance. Then you look at him, goes down to AAA Nashville. And let's just compare, because everybody wants to talk. AAA is different than hitting at the major league level. I agree. AAA is different than hitting at the major league level. Let's talk Owen Miller at AAA Nashville. 276 hitter, 2 home runs, and 21 hits that was in 76 at-bats. 11 RBIs for him. So, nothing crazy, nothing substantially over the top, like you could talk about Keston here hitting 308 with 77 RBIs down there. Nothing crazy over the top, but still a solid hitter at the AAA level. Now you look at a guy like Josh Donaldson, smaller sample size down there at AAA. I agree with that. But at AAA Nashville, 176, 3 hits, 2 home runs, 3 RBIs, and 17 at-bats. What did Owen Miller do worse than Josh Donaldson did down there at the AAA level? Donaldson hit a couple more. He hit a couple home runs. That was it. A couple home runs. 3 hits in total, 2 home runs. I don't see why Owen Miller was the viable candidate to be sent down for Josh Donaldson. I don't. Brian Anderson. I like Brian Anderson. Love him as a defensive player. You don't give him the time at the plate. And I get it. He's an inconsistent hitter. And you want consistency in this lineup. So if Brian Anderson isn't consistent enough for this lineup, then how is Josh Donaldson any more consistent than what you're going to get out of Brian Anderson being in that lineup day by day? How is he any more consistent than what you're going to get out of Rowdy Tellez? Because right now, what I'm seeing from a lot of people, Rowdy Tellez is a home run or bust kind of guy. Josh Donaldson, same difference. Rowdy Tellez can spray a single in the center. He showed it. He's shown it here since he came back from the injured list. He can spray a single. He can go 1 for 4 for you. And the next night, he can go 0 for 4. Josh Donaldson might prove me wrong in this whole scenario. But what I don't understand is the way the Brewers organization makes moves doesn't make sense to me. Does not at one bit make sense to me. You look at guys, okay, you want to talk about impressive track records down at AAA Nashville? Abraham Toro, 400 hitter in the majors this year, 296 hitter at AAA, 97 hits and 54 RBIs in 328 at-bats, 33 doubles, 44 walks to 63 strikeouts. And Abraham Toro consistently sits in AAA. A third baseman, mind you. Another young, and the Brewers love cheap third base option. And yet he sits down in AAA. I want to understand, as much as the next guy, how the Brewers make moves and why they make the moves that they did. I don't care anymore about veteran leadership, veteran presence. Oh, we need that veteran presence, that guy who's been there, done that. Carlos Santana's been to the World Series. Corbin Burns, Brandon Woodruff, Freddie Peralta, Christian Yelich all went to the NLCS. Mark Canha has seen the dumpster fire that was the New York Mets. He understands how to avoid dumpster fires. How much more veteran presence do you want on this team? William Contreras played for the Braves. He's been with Ronald Acuna. He's been with Austin Riley and Matt Olson. He's been with Ozzie Albies and Spencer Strider and Max Fried and Charlie Morton. William Contreras has seen how to win. How much more do you need at the major league level here? You can't even argue veteran presence, veteran leadership. We don't need any more veteran leadership on this team. We need guys who can hit. We can't go into the Braves series or the Dodgers series and say, we're going to win this ball game based off of veteran leadership. We got we may have been out hit 15-2 in this one and lost by a score of 10-1, but you guess what? We had veteran leadership. So we're going to be able to rebound in this one. And then the next night, another finish of 9-2 and another loss. And we can, the veterans will bring them back. No. The veterans can only do so much. You need guys who can hit. Why do you think Sal Frelick is still getting consistent playing time? He can hit. Why do you think Joey Weimer has got less playing time? Can't hit. He gets defensive time, can't hit. Tyrone Taylor, don't know why he plays. Can't hit. Cannot hit consistently. Owen Miller was a consistent hitter for this Brewers team, and I don't know why he gets the shaft. I don't know what he said to the wrong person, but Owen Miller, and I agree with people who say Owen Miller deserves better than what the Brewers are doing to him right now, and you can argue with me until you're blue in the face. But another comment I got from a guy, makes no sense to him, could be for a longer-term option for Donaldson. Want to see if he can maybe be extended for another year based on what happens the last few weeks. He put his question mark. Maybe, hypothetically, could be a reason behind it. I'm not sure if the Brewers are looking for an older third baseman, especially with the younger guys that have been coming up, like Tyler Black, having Andrew Monasterio already in the system. If you don't lose Willy Adames, Turang moves over, Monasterio moves over, but you have options there. And then he said only reason he could see doing that was a guy performing, and that at one point in the season was the only guy hitting. And I agree with that. What he's trying to say is Owen Miller was replaced by a guy. It would only make sense if he was replaced by a guy who had been hitting consistently this season, and Josh Donaldson was not that guy. If you replaced Owen Miller with Abraham Toro, I wouldn't be so upset. I'd still be upset that it was Owen Miller again who got sent down instead of some of the other guys like Joey Weimer or Tyrone Taylor or even guys like Rowdy Tellez, Brian Anderson. But again, it was Owen Miller, one of your most consistent hitters to start the season, not getting playing time down the stretch. Had another comment, and this guy said defensively he's a better third baseman. I think the Brewers had to make a choice, and right now it looks like they are hoping they have a guy that could be a lightning in the jar type of player who could, mind you, could spark this offense to a World Series trip. That's about all I can think with this move. I 110% agree with what you're saying there as the lightning in the bottle, or lightning in the jar, you phrased it, but lightning in the jar kind of guy. That's all I can think they're trying to go for with Josh Donaldson. Glove-wise, he's getting older. His glove isn't as good as what it once was. He still has a good glove. His arm's kind of going away. Monasterio hasn't played a terrible third base for you. I mean, is he Gold Glove caliber? No, he makes his blunders, but so does Willy Adames at shortstop. I mean, you can't fault Monasterio if you don't fault Willy Adames. If you want to, with something like that, you might as well move Turang to short because Willy Adames has had some faults at shortstop too. I agree he is a better third baseman overall, but Monasterio hasn't played a bad third base, and Monasterio's been hitting better ever since he got Donaldson. Maybe it was kind of like the Packers when they they drafted Jordan Love just to piss off Aaron Rodgers, so he played better. Could be one of those things, but that's what I got with that situation right now. It just was one of those moves I don't really understand fully to the extent of what in the heck the Brewers are trying to do here moving forward. But yeah, that's what I got with the Brewers right now. But with that, I'm going to jump over into the Badgers real quick and just kind of cover some of the things that I was seeing here with the Badgers and what some people are saying here. I've seen a lot of people who have come out and they have said, people need to. I've seen a lot of people say, well, calm down. Badgers are fine. We expected this out of a first-year head coach. Everything was changing, this and that. Yes, everything was changing. I agree with that. Everything was changing, and change was what everybody called for. We need to have all this change. Otherwise, the Badgers will continuously keep falling. And yet, we get this change. Luke Fickell comes in, Tressel, and Phil Longo. and you expected it from what we heard, what we were seeing, all the recruits that came in. You had veterans coming in. So veterans, I mean, I understand you're in a new offense. You're in a new defense of scheme. Most of these guys are new though, so they're adjusting, and the coaches have to adjust to new players. They have to adjust to new players every single year. New players coming in have to adjust. Alabama, Georgia, those freshmen, those guys are still playing great coming in as freshmen. So I don't see the excuse there with this turnover of the program. You still have veterans in that locker room. Tanner Mordecai has played for SMU. He's a senior on this team right now. Braylon Allen, Ches Malusi, seen that, done that. This offensive line isn't young. The wide receiving core isn't young. The defense isn't young. They have some veterans on that defense. Phil Longo worked with some quarterbacks, some decent quarterbacks in his career. Fickle, he's led Cincinnati to the promised land at one point, to the college football playoff. But right now, it looks like the offense or this Badger team, you tried to take the Badgers in one direction. We were going to go to this air raid offense, and we were going to go away from what Paul Chryst had developed in Wisconsin, and that was a run first. We were going to barrel it down your throat, and that was going to be Wisconsin's offense. We're still that. We're mixing eras right now. We don't have an identity. We're still trying to find an identity as Wisconsin Badgers football team right now. Are we an air raid offense? Are we a run first offense? I don't know. I don't know what to tell you with this Badger team right now. I'm seeing it from both sides. I'm seeing a lot of, Braylon Allen and Ches Malusi. Look at that game against Buffalo. Ches Malusi and Braylon Allen don't break that game open, the Badgers lose. With an air raid offense in that one, the Badgers lose. Look at the game against Washington State. The run game could not get started. The pass game couldn't carry them. This air raid offense couldn't carry them. And that's where I'm looking at Phil Longo in this offense and saying, okay, how can you guys fix this? How can Phil Longo and Luke Fickell sit down and say, what do we got to do? Because right now, we're getting pushed around. Our air raid offense isn't really an air raid offense. Our defense isn't playing very good. That brings in Tressel into the room. Our defense isn't playing very good, but our offense isn't backing it up. Our offense is playing like we saw last year underneath of Paul Chryst and then underneath of Jim Leonard. Our offense is not backing up the defense. The defense had some stops in this game. They gave the Badgers the ball back, and the Badgers couldn't do anything with it. They couldn't put drives together. They beat them in every statistical category except for turnovers. Turnovers killed the Badgers in this one. But those turnovers, like I said yesterday, Ches Malusi's fumble, not going to count that one. But those turnovers, a lot of pressure in the backfield. Mistakes were made by Tanner Mordecai. This Badgers team has a lot to figure out on the offensive side for a team that was supposed to come into this and be explosive and be this dominant air raid offense. It seems like we're still in the days of Paul Chryst and the run first offense that was Wisconsin football. But that's what I've been seeing a lot with the Badgers right now. A lot of undisciplined, sloppy play right now out of Wisconsin, especially from the defense. And I understand, like I said, the culture shift, but there's a lot of programs that go through this culture shift, and they're not really struggling. Look at what Colorado has done. Yes, Colorado's played Nebraska, and they played TCU. TCU is a good football. They're not a terrible football team, and Colorado took it to them. Colorado took it to Nebraska. TCU would beat Washington State. I think that would be a good game, but I think TCU would beat Washington State. Colorado went through a culture shift. Yes, did he change the program? He brought in a lot of guys with him. Yeah, he did. Deion Sanders did. But that's a culture shift inside the program. And they still are winning consistently. And they brought in a quarterback, brought in a new offensive weapons, brought in some defensive guys, and they're still playing good football. And that's where culture shift is not the problem here. It's that the Badgers don't have an identity right now, and there's no fire. It doesn't seem like there's any fire, any kind of drive in this Badger team right now. And that's what I'm really looking to see here against Georgia Southern, is some kind of spark and drive out of this Badgers team. Not just to beat a team, but you look at how these other teams, these other great programs, you watch teams like Georgia. When Georgia plays a team like let's just put out there Appalachian State. They didn't play Appalachian State, but we'll just say Appalachian State. They don't just beat Appalachian State. They bury Appalachian State. And when I watched Luke Fickell come in the door and I watched all these offensive weapons, that's the kind of performances I expected out of this team, was a blowout performances, an offense that could finally put up numbers here. And we didn't get that. You look at teams like Buffalo. Buffalo's not that great of a program. Buffalo's got a solid football team, but they're not a dominant football program. And the Badgers struggled against Buffalo. Washington State's an okay Pac-12 football team. You have now lost 2 years in a row to them. Georgia Southern, a team that shouldn't have the ability to come into Camp Randall and hang with you. If Georgia Southern can hang with the Badgers, the Big Ten schedule is going to be rough sledding for this Wisconsin team, and I would be very surprised if you can get into a decent bowl game if you don't do some impressive work in the Big Ten. And I don't know how long it's going to take for a culture shift to take. We had all this offseason for this culture shift to take note and to take change. It's just like I was listening to them talk about the Giants said, oh, well, we weren't prepared, or somebody said they weren't prepared for this first football game. You knew the schedule months ago. You weren't prepared for this game. The Badgers don't seem prepared for any one of these games. I get it, but it's Saturday to Saturday. You have 7 days to prepare yourself. You have 7 days to get mentally right, to get physically right. You have 7 days to prepare for the next game. And you're telling me you cannot get ready in that 7 days? You couldn't get ready in this last offseason, in the summer camps leading up into this fall. You couldn't get ready for this start of the schedule. I would understand if this team would have slipped up against teams like Purdue or Indiana or even like Ohio State. I would have expected it. Or a team like Minnesota to end the year. Would have expected in those ones. Washington State, though, did not expect the Badgers to lose it that early. But that is what I got with the Badgers right now. It's an identity thing with the Badgers right now. Finding out truly who they are and what they are going to do here for the rest of the season. But that is about all I got for today. Just some Brewer talk and a little bit of Badger here to end it. But with that, I want to thank you guys for listening again to the podcast. It has been great chatting with you guys. Thanks for listening to Wisconsin Sports on the Go with Trage. Hopefully the Brewers pick up a win tonight. We will catch you guys tomorrow to talk all about it. Deuces, Brew Crew.